This September, we're focusing on stillness. And if you're ready to take that journey deeper, I'd love for you to grab a copy of my brand new book, Living Unmasked, an autistic woman's guide to get into your comfort zone. You'll get both the ebook and audiobook together for just $9.99. It's filled with gentle practices and insights to help you step into a burnout free, joy filled life. If you'd like to save $5, grab your special code when you register for Self Care September. You can find it at whittingtonwellbeing.com.
Step out of the shadows, feel the power rise. Catch the spark inside you, let your spirit fly. Beyond the chronic burnout, Carole Jean's your guide. Find your steady rhythm, life's joy on the tide. Flourish forward, bright and bold. Leave the burnout far behind. In this journey, hearts unfold. Power's yours, seek and find.
Kevin, welcome to the show today. I am super excited to be able to have this conversation with you today because you are my meditation teacher.
Thank you. Thank you, Carole. Thank you for inviting me here onto this podcast to share about burnout and meditation and to just have a great conversation with you. That's what I'm excited about.
Me too. I always learn something new from you every week in some way, be it through an instruction module, be it through our live sessions on Sundays. And I think what I find so beautiful about just being part of Meditation University and being a student, because I am always the student in some way, is that it's not just through a knowledge transfer, but what I love that you do in Meditation University and in the Sunday Sanghas is just modeling the example, the experience of meditation. How did that come about for you? That became part of the program and the way that you show up to share meditation?
Well, it's a very profound question. I appreciate it. Thank you. I believe personally that the modeling of meditation is more important than the information about it. It's a great question about where that came from and where I started realizing that. I'm really not sure. If I think back, maybe it was Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle is such a great model of meditation, and it doesn't really matter what he's talking about. It's always pulls you into the present moment because he's always in it. I guess, I when I started learning a long time ago about the concept of what a guru does, a guru is not translated as a teacher. It's guru means like a guide from darkness to light. And that translation can mean a lot of things. You can be a teacher who's a guide, but generally my understanding of what it means to be a guru, and I don't like to use that word about myself or about anybody really. You can use it in a very broad sense where everybody's a guru, or you could use it in a very narrow sense where it makes it like almost like a hierarchy of who's better spiritually, which I really don't like when people do that. But to be a good guide is to be a role model more than to be a teacher in my experience and my view. So it's so much easier to bring people into presence just by being present yourself than trying to explain it to them. And I think actually the reason for that is because explaining things is always going to be on the level of the mind. But presence is going beyond the mind. So logic and explanation and information will never do it. It may be pointing the right direction, but it will never actually get somebody into presence. What gets somebody into presence is something in the present moment that pulls them in. And things like sounds, I don't know if you can hear those sirens outside here in Miami. There's some police cars that can pull you into the present moment by just a sound. And also a person can pull you into the present moment by their own presence, by being there and inviting you to join them. So that's always been my mode. But thank you for asking me the question to reflect on where that came from. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna have to reflect on that more. But for now, I'd have to say probably Eckhart Tolle showed me that.
I love how this awareness just now came together, because
Mm,
in my journey, in my discovery, in my practice of meditation, for me it was, I have always been so in my mind
mm,
and very dismissive and disconnected from my body for so long, that as you were speaking and talking about the modeling of meditation being so much more important, and you talk about this in the course in Meditation University,
mm.
and I really resonated with it when you said it. And as you said it here today, it made it even bigger, because being in the present moment is so much, for me, it has been this discovery of acknowledging my physical body, my sensory system, the experience of this moment outside of my thinking brain.
Yeah, and within the thinking brain too. That's something that took me a long time to realize, is that the thinking brain is not something that is only a distraction from the present moment, but it is also here in the present moment. And if we think of it as it's my body versus my mind, or presence versus thinking, then we have this sort of split in our experience where it's like sometimes we're thinking and sometimes we're present. And there's like a conflict there. And that can create friction and some suffering too. But if you don't make that split and you realize that the mind is here in the present moment as well, the thoughts might be about the past and the future, but the mind is here and the thinking is here and now. Then it's all together the present moment. And even thinking can be in the present moment. You can even think in the present moment. That's something that also took me a while to realize, but it's a subtle thing, but it's very important.
It
Yeah.
really is, and it is this awareness of all the facets and the components
Mm,
of meditation, and the being in the present moment.
mm.
Kevin, to kind of kick us off, so if someone is joining us, and meditation has always been that sort of, I don't know about that, or I'm not really
Mm.
sure about it. I've never had anybody talk or share anything around meditation, and they're really curious. How do you, just from a very basic standpoint, what is meditation?
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of people maybe feel resistant toward meditation because it's associated with certain cultures, like Eastern cultures, Indian cultures, Chinese and Japanese cultures. And people who are part of other cultures can feel like that's a foreign thing. But really, I don't think of meditation in that way at all. When we use the word meditation, it's an English word. It's, Marcus Aurelius wrote a book called Meditations back in ancient Greece. And meditation is more of a human thing than it is any particular culture's thing. Just like thinking, right? Thinking doesn't come from one particular culture. Thinking is something that we all do. Meditation is also something that doesn't come from one particular culture because it is something that we all do. It's something we do naturally. And we just don't always know exactly how to access it. So if you didn't have a word for thinking, for example, and you did have thoughts, thoughts were happening, there's thinking going on. But if you didn't have a word thinking to describe it, you might just not be able to you might not be able to refine your thinking, you might not be able to work with it You might not be able to improve the ways in which you think. In the same way, meditation, you everyone does it naturally and sometimes, but if you don't have a word for it and understanding of what it is and what it does, then it's very hard to work with it because it's just something that randomly happens. You don't even know how to describe it. And I've talked to so many people that have had spontaneous meditative experiences. It's not just like very special people that have that. It's like I think everyone has that to some extent. In certain circumstances like life or death scenarios where, you're worried you're about to crash or you're gonna skid on the road or you're climbing up something very high or something like that, or in just moments where only one thing that matters and it's in the present moment, like your child is sick or you're falling in love with someone or something like that, where everything that matters is right here and right now, and you just come into the present moment. Then you have this beautiful experience. I mean, if you're about to crash, it might be scary also, but there's at the same time this sense of everything is here. I'm fully here. I'm fully in this moment, rather than being distracted by things that you're worried about. You might find that the things that you were worried about fall away. You might find that the things that you were feeling embarrassed about, that you were thinking about, something that happened yesterday, just kind of becomes irrelevant. And the only thing that really matters is being alive in this moment. And so we all have these experiences and we just don't think of them as we don't have a word to describe them, but now we're starting to develop words to describe them in the Western world, presence or um, present moment awareness, being in the here and now, uh, and sometimes we just call it like getting out of your head, being, but these words are also kind of vague, if you hear them, it doesn't really tell you how to do it. It doesn't tell you how to access it intentionally. It just tells you, oh yeah, sometimes you experience it like that. But in the Eastern world, for thousands of years, they've, they actually have had civilizations for way longer than we have over here. The Indian civilization is one of the oldest in the world. The Chinese civilization is one of the oldest in the world. Thousands and thousands of years. People have been hanging out together and doing civilization and farming and, building stuff and talking together and developing language. And over time, over thousands of years, people start to realize like, oh, that state of being like really present is actually pretty awesome. Like we should explore that more. And then they develop techniques to become more present. And they're not really that complicated. They're more like they're pretty simple actually. Just, for example, closing your eyes and paying attention to your breath, or being aware of your body sensations, or listening to the sounds around you. All of these things help you come into the present moment. And I to me, when I discovered that there was I didn't even when I was in college, I had so much anxiety and depression, and I was going through all this suffering, and I didn't realize that there was a way out of it. I thought I had to think my way out of it, which is actually the opposite of what I needed to do, because the thinking was what was causing the anxiety and the depression, the overthinking, the constant spinning mind and the analysis. But when I started to find out that there were ways to come into the present moment that were beyond thinking, that were, more about the body, like you were saying, Carol, I and just the more I started to learn about it and to understand it, I suddenly just came out of that world of pain and suffering and anxiety and depression and all that. Even the ADHD that I've had for my whole life, I mean, I was able to handle that a lot better. The you call it neurodivergent, or Asperger's or autism or whatever it is that I struggled with my whole life. Didn't even realize that I was struggling with that. And then when I started coming into the present moment, like all that started to, at least the parts of that that were problematic, started to dissolve. And it's just amazing. And when people are like worried that it's not for them, or it's, something that's like foreign or weird or exotic or something, whatever it is, it's like, actually, it's just, being being skilled at being happy and being skilled at being in the present moment and enjoying your life. It's a skill, like, like any other skill, like playing piano or riding a bicycle. So I get that some people, have conceptions of meditation as if it's something that it's not, but I think at the core, at the foundation, I think it's really something that everyone can benefit from.
So it would be sort of just to encapsulate what you just shared. A meditative state is just, from what I hear you saying here, is just to be present in the moment.
That's a good encapsulation. I think that when we use few words, it can be helpful to try to get something into a box and, make it something that's easy to digest and understand. But I think that sometimes when people only hear the few words, they don't really know how to implement that. So that's why I try to elaborate,
No, no, no. I love
Yeah,
both. That's why I
yeah.
think we have to give both, because I
Mhm.
like, here's the cliff notes and here's the deep dive. Here's the encyclopedia,
Yeah.
and I love that
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
there isn't also, and I think this is something that has just been such a joy for me in my practice of meditation, in to strengthen my awareness of the present moment, is that there is no end goal here. It's not
Mm,
like, here's the meditative state, this is the box you check and how you experience and how you get there, because
mm,
that is not what this is.
mm,
It is this practice, this ongoing evolution, because
mm,
what I've discovered is that in the practice of meditation, in the compassionate curiosity of different ways of approaching, and that's what I love about how you teach meditation, is you really take all of these different approaches. We can, from maybe a Western approach, say, okay, so if we were going to give you some idea of how to maybe start putting meditation together with some words that might feel a little more concrete, we can say, if you've experienced a flow state, if you
mm,
have engaged your default mode network and had mind wandering or daydreaming, those
mhm,
types of things. But essentially, it is this experience, this allowance to be, through a variety of ways of engaging the brain, the body, the electrical energy.
mm,
We can talk about this metaphysically, we can talk about this scientifically. There is an electrical energy to our being
mm,
that all comes together in this. But the big question is, what's the benefit of it, Kevin?
mm. Well, that's a very good question, and it's important for people to understand what the benefits are in order to, be motivated to want to do meditation, to practice it, to take the time to sit down, because it's actually not easy to do. It's not that it's complicated; it's actually very simple, but it's hard to get past our mind's um, busyness. That the mind is constantly wanting to do things. Um, and the meditation is the stopping of that, stopping doing. So it's very hard to convince ourselves to actually sit down and do nothing for some time, because the brain thinks, no, no, I have so many things I have to do. I'm not going to do nothing. That's crazy. So understanding the benefits is important, and I will get into the benefits in a moment. But I think it's also important to preface this with that if you're aiming for the benefits, they will elude you.
That is so true.
Yeah. The if you're if the
Here's the big disclaimer.
it's a paradox. It's a paradox. If you practice meditation just with the intention of practicing meditation, then the benefits will be there because that meditation naturally leads to these benefits. But if you're practicing meditation with the idea that you're going to get some benefits, then you're going to be chasing something in the future when you're trying to meditate. You're chasing some state or some experience. And that is the opposite of what meditation practice is. So, meditation practice, paradoxically, is to just let go of any chasing. It's to let go of any need for anything else that's not here already in this moment. And so if you say, okay, the benefits of meditation are you increase your happiness, less anxiety, less depression, more creativity, more higher clarity and higher quality ideas, less burnout, all these things that are benefits of meditation. And I could go on and on and on. I actually have a new book that's out right now. That's this is we're still working on just like an image quality issue on the cover, but it did come out a little while ago. It hit #1 on mysticism on Amazon, and #2 in the meditations category. And we're gonna fix the cover issue and then re-release it. But I did go through a ton of the benefits in this book. If I open it up and try to find it, benefits of meditation. Here we go. I even have, it's all based in the science. I have like dozens of footnotes in there about all these different benefits: increased happiness, focus, empathy, compassion, kindness, calm and relaxation, alertness, awakened consciousness. Well, that one's a little bit more subjective. Perceptual accuracy, life satisfaction, self-esteem, cooperation, productivity. And then at the same time, reducing the sort of inverses of those things: depression, ADHD, antisocial behavior, anxiety, stress, susceptibility to illusion, suicidal ideation, and self-hatred, and anger and laziness. All of those things have been shown scientifically to be reduced by meditation. So there are all these benefits. And where do all these benefits come from? All of these benefits come from stopping chasing things. Like, we're stopping chasing things in the future that are, these desired states. All of these benefits are desired states that we may chase. And the ironic thing is that to attain them, we have to stop chasing them. Happiness is the best example of that, because if you want to be happy, then the want to be happy is like, I want to be happy. And then, but you keep wanting to be more happy. So you're never fulfilling the want. The want is a form of like desire that's not quenched. It's burning, and it burns inside of you, and then it can never be quenched. But by letting go of that desire for happiness, suddenly you're content. And it's like, because you've stopped desiring this thing, suddenly you actually have it, because the thing that you wanted was actually there already beneath the desire for it. And so just by getting rid of that desire, you actually suddenly have the thing that you wanted. It's it sounds so frustrating and paradoxical, and it actually is very frustrating for people at the beginning of the meditation journey. Extremely frustrating. You say, okay, I'm going to stop desiring happiness, then I'll be happy. Like, there's
Right.
that paradox. Yeah. There's that paradox, because you're doing it, but not for the real, you're doing it because you're trying to fake yourself out almost. There was a moment that really broke me through that. And it was in this monastery in Thailand called Wat Suan Mok. And I was doing a 10-day silent meditation. And on the first 7 days, the first day was okay. I was like, okay, cool. I'm doing a cool meditation thing in a monastery. This is awesome. And then the second day I was like, wait, I'm still anxious. What's going on over here? And then the third day was like, wait, this is like anxiety is actually deepening. What's going on? I'm like having all these thoughts, like I'm worried about all these things. And the third, fourth, fifth, sixth days were like that deepening anxiety, spinning mind, like what's going on with this? I'm in a meditation thing. Why am I going crazy? And like, why is this getting even worse than before? And it was because, oh, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was because I was seeking this state of peace and calm and happiness. And therefore, the anxiety was like, hey, that's not supposed to be there. And then when I would have anxiety, I would have anxiety about having anxiety. And then I would have anxiety about having anxiety about having anxiety. And it just became this like downward spiral echo chamber. And it got so bad by the seventh day I literally could not fight it anymore. Like it was like breaking my, like I just couldn't do it. It was like if you have too much weight on your shoulders and you just collapse, like it wasn't an intentional, like, oh, I'm just gonna give up and like then I will be happy. Like it wasn't like that. It was just like I couldn't fight it anymore. I was just like, oh, okay, like okay, I guess I'm just gonna have anxiety forever. It's fine, like whatever. Like this is just my life now. And suddenly, like in the acceptance of the anxiety, in the acceptance of the fact that my mind was still spinning, that there was no peace and silence inside of my mind, in the acceptance of all of that and just being like giving up and surrendering, giving up and surrendering. We use these as like, oh, you should do that. You should give up. You should surrender. Oh, cool. I have some confetti now. You should give up and surrender. And like, these are things that we tell people that they should do as like techniques, as if it's a technique. But it's not really a technique because if you give up and surrender in order to try to, make something happen, you're not really giving up and surrendering. You're still trying to do it. You're still trying to control it. But if you get to the point where it's like you just realize that you can't stop the anxiety, you can't stop the thoughts, you can't stop all of the stuff that's going on inside your mind and your emotions. If you just realize that and you just stop fighting it, then suddenly everything is fine. It's like, okay, yeah, I have anxiety, that's fine. I have some thoughts, that's fine. And then once then that changes the feedback loop. That changes it from a downward spiral to just maybe some mist that's still swirling from before, and then it just peters out. It just dissipates because that swirling mist was swirling because you were continuing to swirl it because you were being anxious about the anxiety, so you were just continuing that spiral. But once you just give up, then suddenly everything is good. And then I was walking away. I was walking around in this monastery as if I was on clouds. I literally felt like I was walking on clouds for like 3 days, the last 3 days of the 10 days and even after that. And it was really weird because it was barefoot and there was gravel and it had been hurting me before. And like it stopped. It wasn't hurting me anymore. It was very strange. It was like I never experienced anything like that. And there was like a kind of bliss and ecstasy. And I had never experienced that level of bliss and ecstasy before, and I had never like experienced like pure happiness, like the pure happiness of being alive. I started like I guess I had never done this before, but I had there were some columns of ants that would walk across the grounds, and I would sit down next to the columns of ants and just watch them, and like look closely at them and see each one and see what they were doing and what they were carrying, and being like so intrigued at the lives of each of these little beings that were all conscious. It was and just like walking around basically floating around the monastery and seeing all the people and just being so blissed out at the fact that these people are all alive and conscious, that they're all like experiencing this crazy amazing thing called life. Just the love and compassion that came from that, it just all poured out, and it was just all from not focusing on the benefits and just giving up on the idea that I was going to get something. Suddenly, yeah, it all came through. But I think we have to start sometimes with the benefits in order to, because otherwise people are like, why should I do that? You know what I mean? So it's this sort of ironic and paradoxical thing that you have to kind of start with the benefits, and then you realize that that was actually holding you back. But if you don't start with that, then you don't end up starting in the first place.
That is so true.
Yeah.
It I don't know that I've had a conversation with anyone who has stepped into and adopted, incorporated a meditation practice and in a state of being a meditator in their life who hasn't come from a place of suffering, of struggle. I think that is the contrast that gives us the clarity, or at least motivates us to want to, we're so uncomfortable that we are motivated to try and seek comfort. And in that way that you described it, it's in that surrender and that acceptance of the present moment and things as they are, without that illusion that we always, as humans, try to ascribe and give a story to everything, to give it this meaning, because our minds are these meaning connectors. But is this beautiful, powerful place where it seems so counterintuitive that to surrender is to actually step into and embrace your personal power.
Yeah. That's so true.
And I'm curious for you. My journey has been one where it's been in these stages. It's been in these layers and sort of these high growth points and sort of a plateau, and then maybe a dip a little bit, and then there's another one of what the meditation experience is. And sometimes it even started early in my journey where I didn't even realize that was what was happening. My ADHD autistic brain, I've always been an athlete, but I've never been a runner. And at 42, something in me just said, you need to run. Your physical body needs to move in this way, whether it feels natural to you or not at the moment. This is something that something in my being said I needed to try it. I needed to learn how to do it for me. Now, this is the ugliest, weirdest. My kids tease me. They say I run like a T-Rex. I mean, just all the things. And I didn't care. I didn't care. I was so out of shape. I was in the worst burnout of my life. I had been incapacitated and bedridden. So I had no stamina, but there was something in me that I was determined I was going to do this. And in the process, I started to experience this state of being present, of recognizing my body, of recognizing my mind, and just being and surrendering to, kind of like when you were describing, this is what brought this thought up, when you were describing sort of feeling like you were walking on clouds and the gravel no longer was hurting your feet. It was in those moments when I really got to that place where I started to run and my feet had hurt and everything in my body hurt. And then all of a sudden, it was still hurting, but it wasn't painful.
Yeah.
There was this bliss that was starting to occur. And there was this place of surrender to the moment and my body and my breath and just the rhythm of my feet on the pavement. And it was in that I started to get a glimpse, not knowing the word for it, of being meditative.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. The people have spontaneous meditative experiences all the time, and we all have them. And we don't realize it. We don't realize it until if we start understanding how it works, then we can access it more. And which is great because we love those states. They're really very happy and pleasant and enjoyable. I mean, pleasant, maybe not the right word, but they're deeply conducive to happiness. Let's just say that. And yeah, I'm glad that you were able to enjoy that and experience that through the running. I really, really want to see videos of the T-Rex running. That sounds really funny. I'm sorry.
I will go totally raw, totally real, and I will post one for you.
Nice. Tag me so I see it. Sounds awesome. Yeah. I just have to let you know that in about 7 minutes, my wife and daughter are going to probably barge in here. So if you want to talk about burnout, we should get into that now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Kevin, I know you've had your own experience of burnout. Can you describe or share what did burnout feel like for you? Like, what was that experience? And
Mm.
how did
Oh,
meditation come into being a part of the path out of burnout for you?
yeah, that's a great question. I honestly think I've experienced burnout many times, much less so lately. But meditation practice helps, and also my choice to do things that I'm interested in, rather than doing things that I think I have to do because I'm supposed to, has very much reduced the amount of burnout. But I've experienced burnout many times in micro and macro scales, and actually, I'm not an expert on burnout, so maybe I may misdefine it in certain ways. But like to me, even that feeling of like, oh, I've been working for 10 hours and I haven't had a break, and at the end of the day, my brain doesn't want to keep going. Like to me, that feels like a micro version of burnout. And then on a macro scale, that has happened to me in running a company for 3 years in Wall Street, and feeling like, I'm done with this. Like I'm gonna go to Thailand. Like that's more of a macro version of burnout. Would you consider both of those types of things like types of burnout? Because to me, you're the expert in burnout. You're muted, I think.
Those are warning signs of burnout. So those
Mm,
are the presentations and the symptoms. So yes, absolutely. I have 20 warning signs that are the most common that show up. And all of the warning signs, there are physiological signs, there are sensory signs, and then there are mental and emotional signs that all come
mm,
together. These are the things that tell us that we are not our nourishment keys are not being fueled in a way
mm,
that isn't aligned with us to our
right.
well-being. And
Mhm,
the degree to which you experience those on the spicy pepper level that I have
yeah.
developed go from a poblano pepper level 1 where you have just
Mhm,
a little bit of heat all the way up to that ghost pepper level 5 where you're so hot you're not, and your physical body starts to shut down. So
mm,
absolutely, when you
yeah,
were talking about having different degrees, varying degrees of burnout, you're absolutely right. That is
right.
probably what has happened.
So I without going into too much detail about each one, I guess, I mean, I could think back all the way to childhood and think of different burnout times, but I would say the major incidences were probably, when I was, yeah, I was in Jerusalem studying to be a rabbi. It's a long story. I used to be a religious Jewish individual, and I went to Jerusalem to become a rabbi, essentially. Um, I ended up actually losing my faith, but, I think that the loss of faith was just the thing that allowed me to go into the burnout, because I think I had been experiencing it before that as well. I'd been spending sometimes like 16 hours a day studying these ancient law books in Aramaic, which is like an ancient language that nobody uses anymore, with no vowels. That you have to infer the vowels. It was a lot, not just reading it, but very, very logic oriented stuff that was very like breaking your brain type of stuff, kind of like coding or something. If That's the closest thing I could think of, or studying law books. Um, and I found myself like waking up later and later in the day, every day, and the people that were in my dorm were always like, "Hey, get out of bed, get out of bed. We're supposed to be at the Beit Midrash now. We're supposed to be at the study hall now. Like, get out of bed." And I was like, "No." So I think I was already getting that burnout. And then when I started digging into the foundations of the religion and stopped believing in it, then I was just like, "Okay, I'm done." And I just, that's when I really went into that dark depression and nihilism, and spent probably a couple of years in that in college, in university in New York. And so I guess that could have been likely a sort of a burnout type incident. And that lasted for a couple of years. I slept. I would go to sleep at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and wake up at like 1 p.m. or noon or 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. I got into drugs like cannabis and psychedelics and things like that. Thankfully, not the harder drugs because that would have probably been really bad for me. But those explorations in the psychedelics, I learned a lot about psychology through them. But I also put me down in like a darker hole, in like a spiral. And that was when I first learned meditation. I was in that dark, drug addled place after like a year or two of burnout, when a friend of mine introduced me to meditation, showed me how to meditate, and that was really the thing that lifted it. It was the thing that lifted me. I call it depression, but burnout, depression, they probably have a lot of overlap. At that point, I started realizing, like, okay, actually, I'm okay. Like, that my life is not this crazy, terrible thing that I think it is. I'm able to get out of bed, like I'm able to go and do my things. I'm able to get work done and be productive, and that led to a very bright and happy time of my life, which was building. I built a real estate company right after that. I traveled around the world. I ended up in a monastery, and I've had a really great time since then. Sometimes I still have these episodes of burnout when I'm really working too hard on something and doing things that I don't really care about. And there was a time with Meditation Magazine. We were printing 4 per year, and I was really, 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 really working too hard. I was doing like 80-hour weeks, and there was a point where we couldn't break even on the 4 magazines per year. And we were spending $40,000 an issue. So it was coming out to like $160,000 a year for the magazines. And I was just spending a lot of my time chasing funding. And that was really not what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to be teaching meditation and writing and making nice magazines. And I'm like talking to like loan sharks and like banks and credit card companies and just like trying to get funding. And that made me really, really, I did feel burned out from that. And I took the action. I decided, you know what, we're not going to keep doing that. We're going to adjust our model. We're going to reduce the number of magazines that we print per year, and we're going to increase the number of meditation courses that we're creating. And that solved the money issue to a large extent. And then that really helped with the burnout. But at that point, I think there was a couple of months after that, even though I was practicing meditation, there was a couple of months after that last issue where we were doing 4 per year. I was just like, I can't anymore. And we went to Europe and hung out in Portugal for a little bit, in Spain. Oh, there's my daughter. You want to say hi? Hi, Sky. You want to say hi to Carol? Hey, do you want to say hi? You talking to the microphone over here? Wow. She said no. She's so cute though. Okay. I love you. Okay. Sorry, I'll just be done. I'll be 5 minutes. Love you. Okay. So when we went to Portugal, I took some time off. I took a couple of months to just decompress, and this was actually end of 2023. So not that long ago, less than a year ago, around a year ago. Yeah, around a year ago, almost exactly. And I remember I was sitting and meditating beneath this like castle wall in Porto, Portugal, just before New Year's. They were going to be doing the fireworks over there, and I just remember doing some breath work and doing some meditation and just opening my eyes and seeing the beauty of the world again. Like just seeing like, whoa, look at all those seagulls that were flying over this like ravine, and just even the cars that were driving around this curved embankment that was like in my view, that were just glinting in the sun, and each one as it came around the curve would glint in the sun. And just opening my eyes from the meditation, just being like, wow, yeah, the world is beautiful. It was something that I had been missing for it must have been over a year, that just in that extreme work stress, I hadn't been able to look past the intensity of the work. And it was in the meditation that I came back to being okay again, being, getting past the burnout. So even though I've been practicing meditation for a long time, I wouldn't say it's something that gets, keeps you out of burnout forever, and it's like you're perfectly immune to burnout forever. It is something that has gotten me out of those burnouts, like in really powerful ways that really, really, really helped me in multiple instances. So I would say, while it may not be a panacea for burnout, it is certainly helpful, and certainly can serve as an antidote when needed most.
I thank you for sharing that so much, Kevin. It is one of the elements that is part of nourishing our whole selves into a sustainable state of well-being, that optimum steady state. And that doesn't mean that everything is perfectly balanced, because it's actually the opposite. It's things are harmonized, because sometimes something is maybe not as pronounced as another thing in that season of your life, but they are working in harmony together. And meditation has definitely been that for me and for so many of my clients, in that sometimes it is just one of the breathwork exercises that is just the one thing that in that moment allows you to connect and be present, to surrender a lot of the chatter and the shoulds and the have tos, and to just become aware of what we already have. We forget, and I think we get so caught up in the doing that we forget to pause and the power of our being. And it's truly in that for me and for so many of my clients, that meditation has played a part as being a tool, but also a component of how we are being and who we are being in our sustainable, optimum, steady state. Kevin, you and your work and who you are being has been such a tremendous blessing and gift in my life. I would love for you to share with everyone today, how can people connect with you? What services, other than your fabulous book, Awakening? We will have all of the links down in the show notes. How would you like people to get connected with you?
So Carole was asking me how people can connect with my work. So you could see Meditation Magazine behind me. You could check out meditationmag.com. You can get print copies, or you can get online. Thanks for coming, Sky. She's also really helps me with the burnout. When I see her face, I'm not burned out anymore. Thank you, Sky.
I love that,
Yeah.
because when I asked you back in the green room, what was sparking your joy this week, and you were like, my daughter.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
love it.
So
Well,
important.
I
And
am
then
so excited to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for
thanks.
your time. And I love your wonderful book, Awakening, because that is
Thank you.
also it's available on Amazon. And share with everybody how, if they are interested in a meditation practice or becoming a meditation instructor, how can they start the process, Kevin?
Okay. If people want to become meditation instructors, do you want to tell them? Sky, do you want to tell them how to become a meditation teacher? Oh, she's too tired. Okay. So they can go to meditationuniversity.us, and I would say meditationuniversity.us/MTT, like meditation teacher training. It's a great training for anybody who wants to become a competent and confident meditation teacher, and to understand everything that they need to know, while at the same time gaining confidence by teaching in Zoom sessions and breakout rooms and things like that. It's a really powerful program. Carole's in it. I think maybe graduated from it. And
Getting ready to.
oh, nice. Congrats. And yeah, I think people tend to like it. People are kind of enthusiastic when they graduate, very excited about it. So if anybody's interested, you can check it out at meditationuniversity.us/MTT.
Absolutely. We will have all of this down in the show notes. Kevin, thank you so much for all of your insight, your wisdom, and sharing your journey with us today. Taking
Thank you.
those steps out of burnout is truly the place where we begin as we step into our optimum steady state. Join us again next week for another in-depth show, chasing and taking all of the joy that we have, but also embracing it and standing in awareness in the present moment. Thanks so much for being here. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Carole. Nice to talk to you.
Thanks for being here. It's been quite a ride. Energy mastery, let's turn the tide. Top shelf guests, dropping wisdom bombs. Join us next week, where the energy's strong. Beyond Chronic